Hello and welcome to the UC Davis Entomology and Nematology Department's Little Swimmers exhibit. I am Professor Sharon Lawler, and I'll be taking you through a video tour of some aquatic insects that I collected from a pond near my house and also from the Putah Creek Reserve, which I'd like to thank, and I'm going to be returning most of the insects to their habitats. My videographer is Scott Carson. Thank you, Scott. And what we're going to do is talk about the fascinating adaptations of aquatic insects to life underwater. A lot of our familiar insects like dragonflies and damselflies and mosquitoes have aquatic life history stages, and I'll talk to you about how they adapted to the challenge and opportunities of living in the water. So starting from the top, we have water striders. Water striders are bugs, they're actually true bugs, and they skate around on the surface of the water looking for prey to eat. How do they do this? Well, you can see that they have very long legs. This spreads out their weight on the surface tension of the water. Their legs also have oily hairs on them that repel the water and keep them from punching through and sinking. So these just breathe the atmosphere, and they feel for vibrations of the water that indicate some prey has been trapped on the surface, and then they go over and stab it with their mouths and suck their guts out. So those are the water striders. Moving around the circle, I'm going to shake this bit of aquatic debris to which we have a number of water beetles clinging. Now, the water beetles have essentially developed scuba gear for their life underwater. So there are many beetles terrestrial in terrestrial habitats, but these can act like little submarines. They trap a bubble of water under their hard forewings, and they can use this as scuba gear as they travel underwater to either eat prey or graze algae. You can see this big one will swim down, but it'll come up occasionally and hit the surface of the water with its head. And it's got a hairy antenna that has a channel of air that leads under its belly and under its wings to keep that scuba gear full of fresh air. Now we have our enemies, the mosquitoes. And mosquitoes, before they come looking for your blood, live under the water, but not completely under the water. They have, rather than scuba gear, they essentially have snorkels. There's a little tube at the back of the mosquito larva or at the shoulders of the mosquito pupa that they stick out of the water to breathe atmospheric air. So all the insects that we've looked at so far are relying on atmospheric air. The mosquitoes filter feed algae and bacteria, and they can swim, and they swim by undulating their bodies. So you can see them moving around the pan. And then these pupae have little paddles at the back. So now we've got paddles. So you can see that there are adaptations that humans have come up with that have parallels in the insect worlds, like scuba gear and snorkels, and now some little paddles at the back of this pupa. This bad boy or bad girl, not sure which yet, is an immature dragonfly. Dragonflies, which we see flying around eating insects in the terrestrial world, start out as predators underwater. And they have gills inside the back of their abdomen. And so they actually breathe water in and out of their bottoms, kind of the way we breathe air in and out of our lungs. It's an interesting adaptation. And so this is fully aquatic. It's not reliant on the atmosphere, but on the oxygen that's dissolved into the water. But it can also squeeze its abdomen and jet the water in and out, which can help it in swimming. So I'm going to turn this upside down and just to encourage it to swim a little bit, because they can also crawl. And I don't know if you can see it, it's this little jet of water that is coming out and disturbing the sediment in the pan. And when they really get going, sometimes they just will fold their legs back and mostly use that jet. But this one is using a combination of the jet propulsion by blowing it out its bottom, as well as the crawling. We have another fully aquatic insect, at least in the immature stages right here, that gets its oxygen from the water as well. These are caddisfly larvae, and they look like little sticks because these can make houses by using a silk that they produce to weave objects from the environment into little tubes. So this protects them, it gives them camouflage, but the little tubes also help with their respiration. They are undulating their bodies slightly inside the tube, which draws fresh water in the front, and then the water depleted of oxygen comes out the back. And this is a very efficient means of using gills that they have usually on their bellies in order to breathe. The caddisflies often scrape algae off of rocks and pick up debris to eat, and some of them are predators as well. These animals are relatives of the dragonflies. These are damselflies, and they too have gills at the back like the dragonflies, but they're in the shape of little paddles. So like the mosquito pupae, they can wave these little paddles in order to swim. At the same time that they're swimming, this gives a better flow of oxygen to the damselflies. And then finally we have these midge larvae, these little red larvae that you see here, and they're very much aquatic as well. If you can see the color, you can see that they are red. These have an insect form of hemoglobin in a fairly high concentration. So they can not only get their oxygen directly from the water, but they can store it in the hemoglobin and burrow through the sediment, and then they have oxygen when they need it. These eat bacteria and algae, and like the caddisflies, they can live in little tubes. So here's one that's made itself a little silk tube to live in for camouflage. So that is our tour of aquatic insects, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy your picnic day.